right.
Are we ready? I'm going to tell you a story now. Who calls action? Do I call action?
Action.
There are so many places around Perth that have been lost to time, or perhaps people knew about them but have forgotten about them because the building has been destroyed, or it's just something else has replaced it. Perhaps, you know, it was undermanaged, or they ran out of money, or there was asbestos, or whatever the reason. Buildings were gone. And because of that, Perth loses its sense of memory. It loses parts of its memory that probably shouldn't be forgotten. When we lose a place that has collective memory tied to it, it's really sad, and especially places that bring, you know, entertainment and family and fun, like the places that we'll be talking about today.
The Great Escape was an amusement park that opened in the 90s at Hillary's Boat Harbour. It was popular for everyone of all ages. I remember going there in year 7 for the big week out. It was my first time there. It was my first time being at Hillary's, and is what I associated with for Hillary's. Like, that was the defining feature for me.
The Great Escape is a big part of my childhood memory. My brother had his 8th birthday party there. I went to a plethora of birthday parties there. There was mini golf, there was trampolines, like little teacup rides, and there was just always people there, and it was always busy.
It was an icon. It was important to thousands and thousands of people. There was a lock put on the door one morning and it was gone. I was campaigning for the seat of Hillary's at the time, and I put a post up on Facebook saying it's a real tragedy that this wonderful thing has disappeared, and talk about your memories. People started tagging themselves in. It went insane. I think, you know, they call it viral. It ended up having hundreds of thousands of views, thousands and thousands of comments and shares. People were just talking about what it meant to them. They were reminding their friends maybe they had wagged school to come here, or maybe they had their first kiss here, or especially when you're younger, when you come out to something like this with your friends, you remember it for the rest of your lives, and it brought out people's memories. And it just showed to me how iconic this Great Escape was, and how important it was to people as a bit of a marker of Perth. Perth for them growing up, Perth for them having entertainment and having fun. You shouldn't lose that cultural heritage in any place. It's still fond in the memory. It's just a pity that it's not here. It's important to preserve those cultural memories, not to destroy them. And that's what's happened here.
Audrey, do you want to tell me exactly where I'm driving you at 7 a.m. in the morning?
We're going to El Caballo Blanco. Ooh. And it's really rainy. It's very rainy. Severe weather warnings, that's how rainy it is. But we're still filming. Yay. So let's go, let's do this. Writing with my microphone. El Caballo is a place someone told me about when we were trying to figure out a new place to film for this documentary. It's an old Spaniard equine theme park that opened in 1974 by a gentleman called Ray Williams, who passed away in around 2006. But up until then, it had restaurants, a resort, people could stay there. It had a couple of rides and things like that. When we went there and took some photos and everything, it was just absolutely beautiful and has such an interesting story. And now my voice is breaking. They had horse shows and rides. They had this big water slide at one point, and it's just, now there's nothing. It's just falling apart and just left there being forgotten.
So just because something's old doesn't mean that it's valuable heritage item. El Caballo is a good example because it's probably not the most handsome building in the world, and so lots of people, the aesthetic is one of the values that you might assess a building against. One of the other values is social value, and I would suggest that El Cabello is probably important for its social values because it was a place that a lot of Perth people used to go to for recreation, a very family-driven place, all those kinds of things. So its social values are going to be high. Its aesthetic values are probably going to be medium to low.
El Cabello is a really, really cool site with amazing history, but it's one that we weren't a part of as a generation. If you want to find anyone who actually has a connection to it, any emotional attachment, anyone who's actually gone there, you'd have to ask people of like the 60s demographic or older.
It was really out in the bush in those days. There wasn't the lovely, easy road to travel on. It was quite a rumply, bumpy old road. And eventually, among the trees, just on the downside, you saw this magnificent Spanish-type building. There's nothing to indicate from the front that there was any horses. You just walked into this lovely-looking hotel-type place and then walked out, and there's a huge arena with all these horses just waiting to come in, and it was a new thing, and that anybody wanted to go somewhere really different in Perth, that was something really different. Because there was such a crowd there, we were lucky to get seats down the front. Of course, people took pity on us with these little children and a baby. Yeah, they pranced around the ring. It would have been about an hour's show. Horses, stood up on their back legs and walked, and they jumped over the barriers and the fence, and it was great fun. It must have been a very expensive operation, and for a little town like Perth, there just wasn't the regular visitors. They depended on tourists, and when tourists saw how far away they had to go out into the bush, I guess they just didn't want to go. It was beautiful. Love to see it all regenerated and come back again.
Just because it's a 20th century building doesn't mean that it's not important. Connections with heritage and understanding what that is, and then feeling that impact within you and how you deal with the world is a journey.
This is part of people's cultural heritage, part of people's memories of Perth and of growing up in Western Australia.
And it starts probably at primary school when you get dragged along to an excursion to go to a heritage place. And then as you get older, there's different ways that you will engage.
Any place where people go and build memories, it does deserve to be remembered, it deserves to be commemorated, offering that wonderful enjoyment and those happy memories for future generations as well.
All right, we done? Cool. All right. That's a wrap.
Yay! All right. Good job, team.
Okay. Now we can cut.